Back when Titanfall 1 was on its last legs, I made a video talking about everything that I wanted to see coming into Titanfall 2. Today, it's about time that we do the same for Titanfall 3. Let's dive right in. First up, we have more and better tutorials on mobility. So this has been a big problem in Titanfall 1, alleviated a bit in Titanfall 2, but not as much as I would like, where the player is given some basic instruction on how to double jump, how to sprint, how to wall run, how to slide, all the basics like that. But concepts like air strafing, concepts like bunny hopping are not covered at all within the game whatsoever. The only official actual confirmation of these mechanics even existing, at least within the game itself, was a loading screen tooltip in Titanfall 1 that stated if you jump as soon as you touch the ground, you can retain some of your momentum or something to that effect. So it alluded to the fact that bunny hopping existed, but never straight up said, bunny hopping is in the game, and here's how you do it, and here's why you want to do it. So I would love to see in Titanfall 3 a more focused approach, at least in maybe an advanced tutorial that you have to get through a special tutorial menu or something, whatever. Tuck it out of the way. Don't make anyone have to do it, but put it in the game. Help people learn how to perform the basics of Titanfall, because bunny hopping, air strafing, slide hopping, whatever the case may be, whichever version of the game you might be playing, that is core to Titanfall's DNA. That is fundamental to what makes Titanfall Titanfall. And if you don't embrace that, and you don't showcase that and show it off, and try to get people to do it and take advantage of it, then why are they playing Titanfall? Why aren't they just playing Call of Duty? Why aren't they just playing Overwatch? Why aren't they just playing some other random first-person shooter game? Why aren't they playing Quake? Titanfall is a nice amalgamation of all of these things into one middle-of-the-road kind of package, and accentuating that, I feel, would really help Titanfall 3 stand out amongst its prequels. Next up, and kind of moving along from that first point, is I would love to see an expanded practice range in which you could test weapon stats, weapon handling, mobility, pretty much everything in the game, titans, tactical abilities, every single thing that you can choose and customize in multiplayer. I would love to have a sandbox, a small playground in which to play with these things. Doesn't have to be pretty, it doesn't have to be anything huge or fantastical, just a simple, wall with every single gun on it. I can pick up the gun that I want, or just go into a menu and pick the gun that I want, and I can practice with it, I can play with it. Call of Duty Advanced Warfare a few years ago handled this very, very well, where there was literally a practice shooting range, and you could pick any gun you want. There was a good amount of space where you could sprint back and forth and test mobility and test some perks and stuff that are relating to, well, your mobility and your speed, your ability to get from point A to point B. You can test your mantling, all that kind of stuff. All of that existed. It was a small, very confined, very simple space. Probably only took, maybe a week or two to put together, but it was absolutely key in my enjoyment of that game, because I could take any weapon that I wanted and practice with it and learn with it. And there was a few challenges in there where I could try to shoot dummies in a specific amount of time, and that would help me to prove to myself that I have mastered a particular weapon and that I feel more comfortable with it. And I would love to see something like that in Titanfall 3. It helps me not only as a player to just feel more confident in the things that I'm selecting, but also as a YouTuber in testing weapons and testing mechanics and proving that X or Y thing works the way that I think it does, and helping people to decide what should they pick and why should they pick. And once they're able to watch my videos on what they should pick and why they should pick it, then they can go to the training mode, they can go to the practice range, and they can test it out for themselves before they go into a public match and get wrecked with it after one game, and then put it down and say, oh, this Frothy guy sucks or whatever. Just give people an outlet to practice in a more confined and happier, less threatening space, and suddenly the game becomes a lot more healthy for newer players trying to get in. Next up, I would love to see more Gauntlet support and community challenges focused around the Gauntlet. So for those of you that don't know what the Gauntlet is, in Titanfall 2, there was essentially at the end of your normal training mode before the campaign started, there was a wall running section where the main character is supposed to run from point A to point B through this section as fast as possible while shooting a bunch of dummy targets. And there were world records set by multiple different Titanfall players. GameSager was the first one to have the fastest Gauntlet time, and many other people were able to usurp that using techniques such as grenade boosting or just flat out better normal, non-cheating wall running techniques. And there was always a push to become better and better and better at this Gauntlet. There were emergent strategies where people would come through and say, okay, what is the fastest that you can do while only using the pistol? Or what is the fastest you can do it without using any grenades? What is the fastest you can do this backwards, not forwards, you must go backwards? And things like that. And having more gauntlets to run through and community-based challenges focused on that gives people something to strive for. And the people that really support their mobility and the people that really like the movement aspects of Titanfall can really shine there. People can have something to aspire to, something to look up to. If they can't do it themselves, then they can go onto a YouTube page, go onto a Twitch page, and watch someone else who's really, really good at it, and hopefully become inspired themselves to improve themselves within Titanfall and to continue supporting that as opposed to moving on to other games. That is absolutely one of the most important things I feel in helping Titanfall 3 be successful. And it's not one of those things that would be immediately apparent, but if you look on Reddit, you look in the forums, you look in any sort of community space, this is a thing that people want in a big way. People love either participating in this or watching other people who are really good at it. So giving them more outlets to express themselves is absolutely critical. Next up, 3 weapon slots. You did it in Titanfall 1, you did it way too late in Titanfall 2. Please, Titanfall 3 from the get-go. Primary, secondary, anti-Titan. From the get-go. No ifs, and, ors, or buts about it. Just do it. People want it. People want to have it. Doesn't matter what you guys think might be better for the game. Your players expect it at this point, and you have to design around that. And I think that needs to be in the game from day one. You can't mess with that anymore. You tried. I was kind of okay with it, actually. I was actually really okay with it. I didn't mind personally at all for the most part, but my opinion is not everyone's opinion. The vast majority of people really want to see all 3 weapons at all times. So please respawn. Make it happen. Next up, I wanted to touch on first-person animations. Now, again, this is the exact same argument as the 3 weapons argument. People want to see this. People loved it in Titanfall 1. They want it to return in Titanfall 3. They're very upset that it never was and never will be in Titanfall 2. So please, no one's buying the argument that it gives you more spatial awareness, or that there was a subset of people that didn't like it because it was jarring to them. The vast majority of people want first-person animations. Now, if you want to continue including third-person stuff, that's absolutely fine, but make it a setting that people can choose between. First person needs to be in the game, and it needs to be a default. People expect it. People want it. There's something to be said about feeling like your Titan is your own, and you're not some disembodied random just peon running around on the battlefield who is then disembarking from their own consciousness, their own self, to become a ghost flying through the air and watch themselves get into a Titan, which they then fly back into and take control of. Like, it's not what people want. People want their Titan to be their buddy. They want their Titan to be their friend. They want it to feel like it's their Titan, not just anyone's Titan that they could be getting into. And first-person animations are the first step in making that a reality. That is absolutely critical to Titanfall 3's success, and it's something that I really want to see. And this also brings me into my next argument, which would be more customization for pilots and for Titans. And we'll talk about Titans first. Again, the point that I just made is that people want that sense of belonging. They want that sense of feeling like their Titan is theirs. It's not someone else's Titan. It's not just a whatever BS Scorch that they just called down from some unnamed ship from orbit and that there's 50 more of them on the racks just waiting. They want their Titan to be their Titan. Improving on customization and giving people more options to make their Titan their own is critical to Titanfall 3's success. Destiny is a great game that you can look at for a comparison of how this can work, where in Destiny you have predefined roles, you have predefined classes, much like Titanfall 2 has with its Titans. If you're going to go ahead, Respawn, and stick with the Titanfall 2 model of having locked Titan loadouts, which I disagree with, and we'll talk about that later, but let's assume that you're going to stick with locked Titan loadouts. The reasoning behind not offering customizations, as I recall, was that you don't want to change the silhouette. You don't want people to have to look at a Titan and think about it for a split second to see what Titan is this before they can identify it and then play correctly around it. I can appreciate that and understand that and even agree with that as a competitive level player, but competitive people in Titanfall are very few and far between. The vast majority of players in Titanfall 2 are your casual, average Joe fan base, and you need to play up to their strengths and their wants the mass majority of time. So offering things that allow you to change the way your Titan looks without significantly affecting its overall silhouette is very important. And why do I bring Destiny 2 up? Well, let's look at the Titan class from Destiny 2 as an example, not because it's the name Titan or whatever, but it's just because the only one I'm familiar with is that's the only class that I've played thus far in Destiny 2. So with the Titanfall, oh my goodness, with the Titan in Destiny 2, I knew this was going to be confusing. The Titan in Destiny 2, when you look at it, it always looks bigger and more muscular than any of the other Guardians. The shoulder pads are always either very big and boxy or very big and pointy. Either way, they have very, very large and defined shoulders. Even on the armors that are more slim in nature, they're still pretty defining of the Titan class just by being somewhat burly or pointy or just oblong in very odd and awkward directions and ways. And that is very defining of the Titan silhouette in general. People are used to seeing that and having that being what that class is. They're used to seeing a very ovular head with a rounded top. Pretty much no matter which armor or helmet you select, you're going to have that ovular top to the Titan's head, where a Warlock is more spherical and more round, and the Hunter has the cloak over top, which is going to give them that more triangular or pyramidal shape. The Titan always has that oblong head, with the exception of, I think, the Mask of the Quiet One helmet, but that's whatever. I mean, that's one small thing that makes it look a little different, but even in that case, you still have your big boxy shoulders because you can't use a weird exotic shoulders that look different. You have that stock boxy, blocky, or weirdly pointy shoulder pads on your Titan, and no matter how you customize it and make your Titan, your Guardian, your own, it still looks unique. But it still looks like a Titan at the same time. You have those two separate things balanced very nicely. Titanfall 2 does not even attempt to balance these two things. It just says all Scorches will look the same, period end, unless they use the Prime Scorch. There's two different silhouettes of Scorch, and then you can change the colors, and that's it. That's all of your customizations. That is not sufficient. That is not acceptable to the people who are going to be buying Titanfall 3. People want more and more and more customizations. They want to be able to make their characters their characters. It's critically important, so I absolutely hope that this will be a thing in Titanfall 3. Moving on from this, I would also love to see an unlocking of Titan loadouts. People are going to probably yell at me and say, oh, you just want the game to be Titanfall 1. It's okay, fine, whatever. Make whatever your argument you want, but Titan loadouts being locked in Titanfall 2 was one of the biggest sticking points, one of the biggest areas of sadness for players coming from Titanfall 1 when they first heard of Titanfall 2's announcement and when they saw the first bits of footage coming out about the game. All that a lot of people wanted was the ability to make every individual Titan their own, not only visually, but mechanically. So please, Respawn, consider unlocking Titan loadouts. Maybe if not for every Titan, do it for just some Titans, for example. You can have your brand new 6 different chassis, or even 7 now. You have your Scorch, your Ronin, Monarch, your everything else. You can have all that and make it a more locked style loadout, but why not also have the Titanfall 1 style in the same game, where you can also have Atlas, Strider, and Ogre, who can be much more flexible, and they can be defined by the fact that they are unpredictable. When you see Scorch and you see that big, huge body of Scorch, you want to know, okay, this is the fire guy, this is the area denial guy. Or you see Ronin, okay, this is the swordsman, this is the get up close and personal, punch you to death, and get into mind games with you guy. And you can deal with that, and you can play around that as a player once you understand what each of those Titans does. But if you see an Atlas, a Strider, or an Ogre, why can't they not be defined by the fact that they are a little bit more unpredictable, and that maybe their weapons are a little weaker, maybe they have fewer options for customization? Like, for example, if you play an Atlas, Strider, or Ogre, you must have the Dome Shield. You cannot use Warp Fall, or you can only have 1 Titan kit as opposed to 2. Like, for example, with the locked Titans, you have those Tier 2 kits, which can be defining of that Titan themselves, so you can have an increased core time on Legion, or you can have double arc waves on Ronin. Those small things that are compartmentalized and apply to just 1 Titan, those can be power-ups only available to those locked Titans, whereas the unlocked Titans only have the tier 1 basic customization of do you want overcore, do you want double dashes, what do you want? You can have that whole section be only available to those, but they don't get special extra power-ups on top of that. Their special extra power-up is the fact that their loadouts can vary. Their armaments can be different, and players have to play around that and discover what their opponent has and then learn to deal with it. And I think that could absolutely be balanced and played around so that way you can appeal to the best of both worlds. You can have your hero Titans, you can have your class-based Titans, while also supporting all the people who really love the initial strategy of just having whatever the heck you want on whatever Titan, and hopefully you build something smart and not something stupid. And I think that's a really great way to go for Titanfall 3. Now, again, this is all speculation. We can't speak to what the game's balance is going to be like or anything like that. We have no idea. We don't even have an official confirmation that Titanfall 3 is going to be made by Respawn yet, as far as I know. So it's all just dust in the wind at this point. But if this game were to happen, that's totally what I want to see. Next up, I want to go ahead and talk arc grenades for a second. If you guys have ever watched my stream, you know that about every 30 seconds, I am complaining and whining and crying about arc grenades. And I've been doing this ever since Titanfall 1 because I feel they simply do way too much. They are able to damage pilots, they damage Titans, they slow pilots, they slow Titans, they kill minions, they blind pilots, they blind Titans. They do everything. They have a short fuse. They're able to be thrown very far. They're just easy to apply, and they are useful in every single situation. The only thing that they're not terribly useful against is maybe like Reapers or Stalkers, but does anyone really care about that? Because they're so good against everything else that they are pretty much the end-all, be-all Ordinance in both Titanfall 1 and Titanfall 2. So I would absolutely like to see the effects of arc grenades split up into multiple separate grenades. Maybe you can have it so one version of them is like a concussion grenade where it just does a small amount of damage, a low fuse, maybe even just detonates on impact with a wall. And all it does is it pushes people and maybe affects their mobility. So if they're bunny hopping and they're trying to capture a flag and you can throw a concussion grenade in their path, you damage them ever so slightly and you push them off their path, then suddenly their mobility is lost, their momentum is lost, and they're not going to cap that flag, and then you can then proceed to shoot them and kill them and get your kill that way. And that would be very, very powerful without being so oppressive by not only breaking your momentum and pushing you, but also slowing you and blinding you and making your turning speed like a quarter of what it used to be, forcing the use of a DPI switcher on PC if you're that much of a tryhard. Like, get out of here with all that. The arc grenades do too much, and I think that they're problematic in Titanfall. I think that they limit design space. I think that they limit player choice, and I would absolutely, more than anything else in the world, love to see arc grenades split up in that way. So you have like concussion grenades, maybe flashbangs, maybe even a third different type if you want to really branch things out, but something needs to be done to make the other ordinances more attractive. The Firestar and Gravity Star were really cool. People love the idea of a throwing star ordinance in a game where you're basically a ninja with guns. So stuff in that direction is really nice, but just make sure that the ordinances are a little bit more compartmentalized. Make sure they're a little bit more purpose-built, as opposed to the arc grenades, which are just your end-all, be-all. And if you want them to be the end-all, be-all, you want people to have that kind of choice as well, that's fine. But just don't make them anywhere near as strong as they are right now, or were in Titanfall 1, because in both titles, they're too good. Finally, this is probably a pointless cry, but one that I'll make very quickly, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up here. Burn cards and boosts. I absolutely don't want to see these coming back in Titanfall 3. I think that they really harm the experience. I think that I guess I can understand that they can let a lesser player win, or they can give people that sense of power and accomplishment and pride or whatever for a few seconds or minutes if they're able to make them last. But I really just don't like having them or playing against them. And in Titanfall 1 and 2, I made a point of pretty much never using these things at all because I felt that they were almost across the board either completely overpowered or completely useless. And I just felt that I didn't want to participate in that system. I wanted my own kills and my stuff to just be all done by my own merits. That's what was most important to me. The other really big thing here has got to be the recent controversies and everything involving EA and loot boxes and all that. And I just wanted to say that I really hope that if burn cards or boosts come back in Titanfall 2, that we don't see something like these appearing in paid-for loot boxes, or you pay for burn card packs, like $5 will get you 20 burn card packs, and then you can use those to, have Ghost Squad active, which was basically permanent active camo, permanent cloak from Titanfall 1, or adrenaline, whatever, transfusion, where you had a perfect and permanent and more effective than normal stim active always while you were alive for that life. Things like that really need to just not be in the game in general, but especially not happen in a burn card pack that you pay real life money for. So I hope that doesn't be a thing. I hope that will never happen in Titanfall. I have trust in Respawn. I have trust in Vince Zampella and his team there to not ever do that in their game, but I feel like everyone would yell at me for being a shill for EA if I didn't at least bemoan that momentarily. So really hoping that that kind of stuff does not happen in Titanfall 3, and that if we do see microtransactions and we do see monetization of the game and we do see it performed, or rather updated as a service game as opposed to a $60 game that you buy and then maybe buy like a DLC for, but if they plan on making it a proper service platform, which could be really cool, by the way, I just hope that they don't monetize it to death with mechanical things like you would see in Battlefront. I really hope that they would, if they do go for the monetization route, they do go for that live game route, that it's all cosmetic and not game affecting in nature. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for me today. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope that you found this at least interesting to watch. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think. If you have any sorts of ideas for what you want to see in Titanfall 3, perhaps some different game modes, maybe oddball, maybe you want to see uplink, anything like that, let me know in the comment section. I want to hear what your guys' thoughts are as well, because I'm sure Respawn is going to be watching this video, and I'm sure they're going to be reading the comments as well to kind of ping you guys and get ideas for what you want to see in the game, because if it is in development, I'm sure that they're pretty much heads down and going into it right now, and they're going to want everything they can possibly get to try to make for you guys, because again, this game is made for you, the fans. It's not the developers trying to like make something that they only 100% purely they want, and it's for their own value and for their own fun. It's for you guys. So make sure you let them know what you want to see, because if you tell them the right things and you tell them early enough and you tell them loud enough, they might just make it happen. So anyways, guys, thanks again. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.